It's just amazing. And this is like a spin-off. It's just unheard of. So that was on my mind at that point.
You think you know the Jeffersons? The laughs, the love, the moving on up to the deluxe apartment in the sky. But behind those big smiles and bigger personalities were secrets, struggles, and stories the cameras never showed you. These weren't just sitcom characters. These were real people with real battles, and some of their truths will completely change the way you see them. Let's start with Sherman Hemsley, George Jefferson himself.
And I called out and say, "Hey, this is Sherman Upstate. Hold it, we're looking for you."
They've been looking for him. They
Yeah.
were looking for him high and low. Couldn't find
But
him.
you should.
On TV, George was loud, proud, and always in somebody's business. Off camera, Sherman was the opposite. He was so quiet and private that even the cast who worked with him for years admitted they never really knew him. He built walls around his personal life, and no matter how close you got, there was always a part of Sherman you couldn't reach. He didn't have an easy start. Born in Philadelphia, he dropped out of school, joined the Air Force, and later worked in a post office by day. But at night, he was chasing something different, a dream. He started acting, joined the Negro Ensemble Company, and eventually landed on Broadway in the play Pearlie. That's where TV legend Norman Lear spotted him and knew instantly this was George Jefferson. But Sherman wasn't ready. He didn't want to leave New York, and he was still performing on stage. Most producers would have just moved on. Not Norman Lear. He believed in Sherman so much, he literally kept the role open for an entire year until Sherman was ready to take it. When he finally stepped into George Jefferson's shoes, it was a huge shift. George was brash, rude, even mean at times. Sherman, a gentle, spiritual soul who often found the role exhausting. Isabel Sanford, who played Louise, called him Neck as a running joke. But it also showed their closeness. And yes, it was Sherman who first called her Weezy by accident, a slip that became one of the show's most famous nicknames. But Sherman carried another truth he never talked about publicly. While George Jefferson was married to Weezy on screen, Sherman never married in real life, never had kids, and quietly lived as a gay man in an era when being open could end a career. His close friends knew, Hollywood insiders knew, but he kept it private, letting George be the one in the spotlight. In later years, he lived simply, far from the chaos of Hollywood. When he passed away in 2012, his private life became the center of a messy legal battle over his will. Even in death, Sherman Hemsley remained something of a mystery, a man who gave the world a loudmouth character but kept his own voice quiet. And then there's Isabel Sanford, the heart of the Jefferson household. Louise Weezy Jefferson wasn't just George's rock, she was America's.
They're afraid if they fall, they'll never get back up on their feet again.
Oh, that's sweet of you, Weezy, and smart too.
Calm, warm, and unshakable. But in real life, Isabel's path to success was anything but calm. Born in New York, she dreamed of acting, but her mother wanted nothing to do with that idea. Isabel chased it anyway, performing at local clubs, stepping onto the stage at the Apollo, joining acting groups, all while working a day job as a key punch operator to keep herself afloat. Her big break came on Broadway in The Amen Corner, and then in the groundbreaking film Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. But her true claim to fame arrived when she was cast as Louise Jefferson at 58 years old. Just when most people would think about slowing down, Isabel's star was only beginning to rise. She made history as the first Black actress to win an Emmy for Outstanding Lead Actress in a Comedy Series. Proof that she wasn't just a side character, she was a star. On set, she was quick-witted and natural. In one unscripted moment, after George was acting extra stubborn, she blurted out, "Please," sending the audience into hysterics and creating an iconic TV moment that wasn't even in the script. Sherman called her the Queen, and the cast agreed. On screen and off, Isabel Sanford was royalty. But while America saw the laughs, few knew the struggles she carried beyond the camera. After the Jeffersons, Isabel Sanford didn't just fade from the spotlight. She popped up on shows like Living Single and The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, often right alongside Sherman Hemsley. The two even reunited for commercials, still bickering and bantering like George and Weezy never left the air. And that bond, it was real. Marla Gibbs, the quick-tongued Florence, once said that everyone on the Jefferson set felt like family, and she stayed close to Sherman until his last days. It's rare in Hollywood, but behind the scenes there wasn't drama or ego wars, just a group of people who genuinely enjoyed working together. When Isabel passed away in 2004 at the age of 86, she left behind more than awards and iconic moments. She left behind a legacy of persistence, proof that it's never too late to chase a dream and make history doing it.
Why don't you work it out with Miss Jefferson? I can always get something else from the agency.
Thank you, Florence.
And speaking of history, remember Florence Johnston, the sassy maid who could slice George Jefferson down with one sharp one-liner? That was Marla Gibbs, and her real-life story might be even more surprising than Florence's comebacks. Marla was born in Chicago and lived a pretty regular life before Hollywood came calling. She worked as a reservations agent for United Airlines, helping people book flights and deal with delays. Incredibly, she kept that job for 2 whole years after starting on the Jeffersons. One day she'd be answering phones, the next she'd be on set trading barbs with George. That's how grounded she was. Fame didn't pull her out of the real world. Before the sitcom, she sharpened her acting chops in local black theaters and took small film roles. Her role on the Jeffersons was never meant to be big, just a few episodes, tops. But Marla's wit was electric. Audiences loved Florence's sharp tongue so much that the writers kept bringing her back, until she became a series regular and one of the most beloved characters in sitcom history. But Marla Gibbs was more than Florence. She was a businesswoman, a singer, and a force of nature. In the 1980s, she opened her own jazz club in Los Angeles, Marla's Memory Lane Jazz and Supper Club, and ran it for nearly 2 decades. She even released albums showing a softer, musical side fans never saw on TV. After the Jeffersons, she starred in her own short-lived spin-off, Checking In, and then landed another hit with 227, where she wasn't just the star, she also helped produce the show and sang the theme song. Marla never stopped working, and she never stopped inspiring. She's still acting today, with her name cemented in Hollywood history, literally, thanks to her own star on the Walk of Fame. And then there were the neighbors who broke barriers, Helen and Tom Willis, TV's very first regular interracial couple, played by Roxy Roker and Franklin Cover.
Ballpoint pens are not for writing. They're for making marks. I need a pen with a point. Now, what have you done with my pen?
I don't know.
In the 1970s, this was groundbreaking and risky. Roxy, who brought elegance and warmth to Helen, had the perfect real-life credentials for the role. Born in Miami, she attended Howard University and, like Sherman, Isabel, and so many others from the cast, she was part of the Negro Ensemble Company, a training ground for incredible black talent. She was already an award-winning stage actress, even earning a Tony nomination. But here's the twist. Roxy didn't just play one half of an interracial couple. She was married to one. Her husband, Cy Kravitz, was a white Russian Jewish TV producer. Their son, future rock legend Lenny Kravitz. When Norman Lear was developing the Jeffersons, he worried whether audiences would accept such a bold casting choice. Roxy simply pulled out a photo of her real-life family, her white husband and their mixed-race son, and handed it to him. That single picture shattered his doubts. It wasn't just a TV idea, it was real. And thanks to Roxy, it was about to become part of television history. The Jeffersons didn't tiptoe around the subject of race, they ran straight at it. George, being George, initially called Tom and Helen zebras because they were a mixed-race couple. It was a flaw in his character, part of the rough edges that made him both frustrating and hilarious. But over time, even George had to face his own prejudice. Watching him slowly warm up to Tom and Helen sent a powerful message into living rooms across America. Love has no color, and change is possible, even for the stubborn George Jefferson. Franklin Cover, who played Tom Willis, was a seasoned theater actor before television came knocking. He brought a calm, steady dignity to Tom, the perfect counterbalance to Roxy Roker's quiet grace. Together, they didn't just play neighbors. They made history, showing that love and respect could exist on screen in a way that had rarely been seen before. Roxy kept working after the Jeffersons, but her real passion was helping children. The Los Angeles City Council honored her for her community work, and she became a role model far beyond the world of sitcoms. When she passed away from breast cancer in 1995, she left behind a legacy of breaking barriers both in entertainment and in life. Franklin Cover also continued to act, appearing in big projects like Wall Street before his passing in 2006. Together, Roxy and Franklin were a quiet revolution, proving that acceptance could move on up just as powerfully as any elevator to the east side. But now, let's talk about the character who connected the Jeffersons to All in the Family. Lionel Jefferson. And here's something most fans don't know. Lionel was actually played by two different actors. The first was Mike Evans. His Hollywood origin story sounds like something out of a movie. He was a drama major with barely any professional experience, hitchhiking one day when a casting agent for Norman Lear spotted him and offered him an audition. Lear had originally wanted actor Cleveland Little for the part, but fate, and that lucky ride, landed Mike the role. Mike's Lionel was smart, grounded, and often the calm voice in the middle of Archie Bunker's chaos. But acting wasn't his only dream. Mike was also a writer. After the first season of The Jeffersons, he left. Publicly, it was said he wanted to focus on writing. But behind the scenes, there was tension. Jimmy Walker, star of Good Times, once revealed that Mike had confronted Norman Lear at a Christmas party, frustrated over his lack of lines. He threatened to quit if things didn't change. And then he did. Mike's departure didn't slow him down. He went on to co-create Good Times, another groundbreaking sitcom that gave TV one of its most beloved black families. Eventually, he stepped away from Hollywood entirely, becoming a successful real estate investor. When he passed away in 2006 from throat cancer, he left behind two legacies, one in front of the camera and one on the page. After Mike left, a new Lionel appeared.
Morning, Mom. Morning, Pop.
Good morning, Lionel.
Morning, my son.
Damon Evans. Replacing a major character without much explanation is rare, but Damon's path to the role was even rarer. He wasn't just an actor. He was a classically trained singer, so gifted that he won a scholarship to a prestigious art school. At just 17, he started his own opera company in Baltimore. When he stepped into Lionel's shoes, Damon had never even watched The Jeffersons. He got no real direction on how to play the part. He just made it his own. Beyond sitcoms, he appeared in Roots, The Next Generation, but his heart kept pulling him back to opera. Eventually, he left television behind entirely to perform in the world's greatest concert halls. He won a leading role in the legendary opera Porgy and Bess, touring internationally with groups like the London Symphony Orchestra and the Berlin Philharmonic, and even performing at Carnegie Hall. But during one performance, something unthinkable happened. In the middle of the show, another singer attacked him, right there on stage. Damon later said he believed the onstage attack was fueled by jealousy. Another singer couldn't handle the attention Damon was getting for his performance. It could have ended his career right there. Instead, it became a strange turning point. Rather than shrinking back, Damon dove even deeper into classical music, taking his talents overseas and building an even more celebrated career. But Damon also carried another truth, one far more personal. He was an openly gay black man, and not just in recent years, but at a time when being open came with serious risks. He had even been present during the Stonewall riots, a defining moment in LGBTQ+ history. Living his truth in the entertainment industry back then required tremendous courage, but it became another part of his legacy. And then there was Lionel's wife, the warm, quick-witted Jenny Willis Jefferson, played by Berlinda Tolbert. She was a constant presence in the Jeffersons' groundbreaking interracial family storyline. Berlinda's acting career began in the early 1970s with roles in That's My Mama and Sanford and Son. But here's something most people miss. She had a small part in Martin Scorsese's Mean Streets, one of her very first film appearances. From gritty New York drama to a TV sitcom, it was an unexpected leap. On The Jeffersons, Berlinda saw Jenny grow from girlfriend to wife to mother, becoming a key part of the show's message about love across racial lines.
See, I'm looking for a guy named Lionel Jefferson. You know, you look like him. Well, I take that back. You got a much bigger head.
After the series, she appeared in films like Harlem Nights and Goodfellas and popped up in hit TV shows like ER and 6 Feet Under. But later in life, Berlinda made a choice that spoke more loudly than any role she ever played. She quietly stepped back from acting to care for her aging parents. No headlines, no spotlight. Just a personal act of love and loyalty that says everything about her as a person. And then there's Harry Bentley, the odd, ever-cheerful neighbor with a knack for awkward timing, played by Paul Benedict. When Paul first appeared on screen, many viewers assumed he was actually British. The accent, the mannerisms, it all seemed so authentic. But here's the twist. Paul Benedict was born in New Mexico. His pitch-perfect portrayal of an Englishman was just one example of his remarkable skill as an actor. Before sitcom fame, Paul had already built an impressive theater career, working with Robert De Niro, Dustin Hoffman, and Al Pacino, back when they were still unknowns. His life was steeped in the arts, but behind the scenes, he lived with a rare and challenging medical condition, acromegaly. Acromegaly is a rare condition
Merry Christmas!
Bentley, Christmas ain't till next week.
Yes, I know that, but I wanted to avoid the Christmas rush.
that causes the body to produce too much growth hormone, often leading to noticeably larger hands, feet, and facial features. Paul Benedict didn't even know he had it, until one night, while performing in a play, a doctor sitting in the audience spotted the signs. That doctor later reached out, urging Paul to get checked. The diagnosis was confirmed, and suddenly the unique look that audiences knew him for had a name. But Paul never let it define him. Despite his striking appearance and the quirky personality he brought to Bentley, he was remembered off camera as a kind, gentle soul with zero ego. His career kept thriving, from cult classics like This Is Spinal Tap to A Mighty Wind, and even memorable guest spots on Seinfeld. When Paul passed away in 2008 from a brain hemorrhage, he left behind a legacy as a master of comedy who all along had been quietly fighting a serious condition while making the world laugh. And then there was Mother Jefferson, George's sharp-tongued, wise, and unforgettable mom, played by the remarkable Zara Cully.
I've been worried about Lionel ever since Louise called. Has he come home yet?
No, and I don't know what I'm going to do.
Here's the jaw-dropper. Zara was 82 years old when she landed the role that would make her a household name. Imagine starting the most famous chapter of your career in your 80s. She'd already been acting for over 50 years, earning a reputation as one of the greatest elocutionists of her time, and even being called the Dean of Drama in Florida. But Zara's path to success was far from smooth. Growing up in the Jim Crow South, she endured relentless racism and prejudice. It was so severe that she eventually left for Hollywood, determined to find a place where her talent could truly shine. That personal history gave her performance as Mother Jefferson an added weight, a sense of resilience and authority that wasn't just acting. She first brought the character to life on All in the Family, then carried her into The Jeffersons, delivering warmth and razor-sharp wit in every scene. But during the show's run, Zara's health began to fail. She battled pneumonia, then lung cancer, and passed away in 1978 at the age of 86. The show made the rare choice to write her passing into the storyline, allowing both the characters and the audience to grieve. It was a rare, deeply human moment in sitcom history. And so, The Jeffersons gave us more than laughs. Behind every punchline was a cast of real people, each with hidden battles, secret triumphs, and moments of quiet courage. Some fought for love, some fought illness, others fought for a place to belong in an industry and a world that didn't always welcome them. Together, they didn't just move on up on TV, they moved on up in life, leaving behind a legacy of groundbreaking television and unshakable strength.